Good morning. Welcome back to middle school science. My name is Mr. Paul, and we're going to do something different today. Something today we're going to do you can't do at home as our last projects, but it's going to be interesting. So we're going to start with the PowerPoint. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to focus on just what we're doing today. No PowerPoint today. But I want to shout out the Sequoyah teachers that have done a fabulous job today. I learned how to draw a cat, Pete the cat to be honest. I remember now how to do my haikus properly. I got some great cooking lessons, which everyone needs. And then we finished with eggs. This is perfect. So we're going to move in today some anatomy. So one of my favorite lessons to teach in 6th grade. Oh, by the way, Mr. Paul again. I apologize. I missed that part. So one of my favorite lessons to teach middle schoolers is anatomy. Now we focus on the different systems, bones, arteries. And then at the end, we do this really good project where everyone has something they could do hands-on. So you want to take a guess what it is? If my 6th graders know, well, here we go. So we're going to dissect a frog today. It's a beautiful specimen. So what we're going to need is some scissors, some tweezers, a probe, and a scalpel. And of course, I'm wearing my gloves. I know Miss Keeler was proud last week with her squid and no glove, but I'm going to today. So the very first thing that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the exterior anatomy of this frog. We're going to make some key observations and notice some differences from our anatomy compared to it. So the very first thing is we're going to look at is we have the dorsal, which is the upper part of the frog, which is very dark. And then we have the ventral, which is underneath the bottom belly of the frog. So as we go through here and look, we're going to notice some neat key differences. Now, it has some awesome webbed feet that spread really far apart. Obviously, this helps make it swim, allows it to glide through its aquatic life. Now, as you move up, we have these really, really muscular legs. This is what helps allow it to jump really far as it reflexes and then goes back in, as it swings all the way out, goes back in. Okay, now we're going to flip over, and then we're going to come back and talk about the front part of the anatomy in a second. So if you notice, the bottom part is very light. I wonder why this is. Dark on the dorsal, light on the ventral. This is actually an adaptation of the frog so that when it's above the water systems or on the banks, that it's dark so it blends in. This helps it survive for many of its predators like snakes, birds, or anything like that, where the underside is not. Okay, so as we move closer to the front, I'm going to pull my probe out so we can look at some stuff. So we're going to notice one difference here right off the bat. The eyes. The eyes have this membrane that goes right over the top of it. And that has 2 major functions. The first major function is so that it's when it's swimming underwater that it protects the eye. The second function of this is if anything comes in the eye, just like when we blink, it helps remove it because it's not going to be able to remove something out of its eye. So this helps it remove it from the eye. Now, this, as we move down, you're going to notice that it doesn't have ears either. Now, it's really important because since it's an aquatic animal, an amphibian, and it's in the water, if it has an open hole, as our ear systems do, that go down to the eardrum, water would come in. So this one actually has a membrane that goes over it called the Titanic Membrane. Now, this membrane fully covers the canal, but it allows it to hear when it's above the water and below the water, which is very important for a species like an amphibian. Now, we're going to flip it over. As we go down the body, you're going to notice that its anatomy is a little bit different here also. Whereas a frog does not show how it's a male or female just by looking at it. The first thing you notice is a costal. It has one hole right here on the backside. Now, I'm going to make a joke. You're going to probably call it an anus. We're going to laugh about it. Yes, my kids in my class do the same thing. That's all good. In middle school, you got to love them. And saying that, though, this hole applies for many different things. It allows to get rid of solid bile, liquid, and it also plays a very major role in reproduction system, as in eggs and sperm come from the same spot. Completely different from the male and female anatomy. Now, we're also going to go up here And you know these beautiful 4 digits, unlike ours. Now with the male and female, we can also tell the sex of the frog by looking at the palm. Now to me, this one looks right off the bat, has a beautiful, nice pad right here, very thick. Now typically the thicker the pad here on this digit, you can tell if it's a male or female. So I'm going to go ahead and presume that it's a male. We're going to see if I'm right soon enough. So before we go in and dissect any of the frog, we're going to start and go to the front of the mouth. Now, this beautiful thing right here clamps down, if you can see it already on my hand. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to cut the sides of the jawbone. Now, if you're really quiet and listening at home, you're going to hear the snap of the bone as I cut. Oh. Nope. Let's try this. Let's go with the scalpel. Oh, right there. Again, they heard the glass shattering last week, so well, we'll see. Oh, now if you notice, this frog has also been sitting in this preservatives back there, so it just shot juice all over me. So the unfortunate problem about that is my clothes is going to stink even after I wash them for the next couple times. But anyways, this allows us to open up this beautiful mouth right here. I'm going to be spinning my tray around quite a bit, so don't get dizzy. So if you notice in the tray, the first thing that you notice right off the bat is its beautiful tongue. Now when it comes to get prey, the tongue is going to come out, flip out, catch the prey, and it's going to clamp. And then it's going to slide it back in. But if you notice right here, the tongue is at the very front of the frog's mouth, whereas our tongues are connected at the back. And it's also flips it in for the prey. Now another thing you're going to notice right off the bat is its teeth. Our teeth extrude very, very well, whereas this frog's does not. You're going to also notice that if we get underneath right here, maybe I can show you really well, that it's almost like a jawbone. The teeth are so small because they play a different role from what we use. Now we use our molars and canines to chew up our food, whereas a frog, primary purpose of its teeth is to clamp. So the first part is to pull in, say a fly, and then the teeth are going to clamp. This is to make sure that it does not escape. Now after that, it's going to push it down its esophagus and into his stomach. Now, obviously, it does not chew its food, so the stomach plays a major role in breaking apart the food and pulling the nutrition from it. So we have no teeth out here, but you'll also see 2 more right here that help clamp. So it does not chew its food at all. Another thing you're going to see is you have 2 tubes on each side right here. Now I'm going to flip my cheat sheet over here, because some of these vocabulary words are pretty big, and I seem to forget them. So, the eustachian tubes are on the left and right side. Now, this does not play a part in digestive. This actually helps release pressure on the tributary or the ear canalings right here on the sides. So, last little look before we go in. Then we're going to go back down here. So now we're going to do our first part into actually dissecting the frog. Now typically this is where I have my students pin the frog down so it's easier for you to get into, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to cut everything apart with my hands and move it and show you so it's easier for the camera to see. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go right above his leggings and we're going to cut sideways. Now you want to be very gentle because there's 2 different layers here. Now the first layer is very thin sheet of skin that comes across it. Now the scalpel is very, very sharp, so it's going to cut. Now the first thing I'm going to look at before I go into the internal organs I didn't grab scissors over there, I grabbed a clamp. So the very first thing right here as we get into the internals is we have his upper leg muscle. Now in saying that, if you notice, these are very beefy. I mean, you're almost looking at like a major athlete's strength here. Now we all notice that a frog can jump really, really far, and this is the main reason for it. this beautiful muscle is striated, and if you look really closely, you can see the different striations as it goes down all the way through. Now, also a response to having amazing leg muscles that has the ability to jump really far is it has to have a vertebral column that helps support it. So again, that has a lot of cartilage that goes into it, so when it lands, that it won't have any issues later in its life. Okay, so the next thing is I want to cut all the way up to its mouth. We're going to cut all the way up. This helps remove and make it easier to see the things across. Now, if I'd have grabbed my scissors instead of the clamp over there, it would have been a lot easier, but that's okay. Let's just hope I don't cut into the muscle yet. Huh? No, that's all right. I can use a scalpel. So the very first thing we're going to do is getting into the upper internal organs is we're going to cut the skin through and flap over. Now, unfortunately, this specimen, they didn't use a dye kit when they helped preserve it. So typically, if they do a really good dye kit, you're going to see the major veins that go through the skin layers. Now, the reason for that is because a frog gets oxygen in different ways. Actually, 70–80% of its consumption of gases or oxygen comes from its skin. Unlike us, where we use our lungs for our primaries to get oxygen in and to get it out. They use their skin. So this is how they excrete and internalize oxygen. It's really nice. Makes it really easy for them. Now, if you notice down here, as we went to the striated muscle down here, you're going to see this beautiful stomach abdomen muscles. You can see some of the striation across also as it goes down. Now, again, since I'm using a scalpel, I got to be very, very gentle as I cut through this muscle. Because if I cut too deep, I'm going to cut some of the organs up. And that's the last thing I want to do, especially since I want to pull them out and show you and explain what they do. Now, see if I can do this without cutting through the organs. So I'm going to have to do it a couple times, nice and slow. Hey, Brady. Hope you're having a good day. And hopefully you cooked some of the food that I seen earlier since you've been hitting the Google Classroom up lately with all the food ideas. Burning macaroni and cheese. So let's try the food today. Especially right after we watch a frog being dissected. Again, this is going to take me a few tries because typically I want to cut through this with some scissors. So since I'm using my scalpel, I want to be very precise because I will destroy the stomach and the liver, which is protruding at the very top. Oh, man, hear that beautiful sound? If you can't hear it, I'm sorry. It's the nice cracking of cartilage and bones and some tissue that's going through right now. Oh, my camera woman is just loving this right now. Okay, so I made it through without cutting any of that beautiful organ system right there, especially the liver because it's very large and it's extruding at the very front. So I'm going to flip it one more time so I don't cut my finger off right here. Again, do not do this at home. Do not go to the pond and steal a frog. Do not go into your mother's kitchen and use her knives to cut up a frog in her kitchen. First, it's unsafe. Second of all, she's going to be very upset if she has to walk into her kitchen and there's organs and guts all over her kitchen. And that poor frog doesn't deserve it either, just to let you know. These frogs are from a company. So, all right, we made it through. So now I got to go to this last part of the muscle. We're going to cut down. Oh, did I say this frog was a male earlier? Or did I say it was a female? I said it was a male. Now, I was wrong. I'll show you exactly why I was wrong in a second. So, oh, there we go. Look at that beautiful stuff. It's just beautiful. Okay, so this is why I'm wrong. If you notice, the salt and pepper right here, these salt and pepper like organ structures right here, they're actually not organs. They're actually an abundance of female eggs. So when I said earlier that this was a beautiful pad, I was wrong. It's actually quite small. I like to do that sometimes just to see where you guys think also. So in my classroom, I like to be wrong just to see if someone can prove me the other way, especially when their thinking is different. Now in saying that, These are beautiful. Kind of goes back to the apparently the role of high school today. We had beautiful eggs being cooked earlier through deviled eggs, and then we had our ag teacher talk about eggs. Oh, see? Now we're just going to continue. Now I'm going to remove these eggs because they're going to cause a problem for us to see the internal organs in a minute. So this is one side. This is what she's going to produce at one time. That is a lot of eggs. The only problem is only about this percentage of eggs will actually make it to the past the gestational period and actually produce and actually become tadpoles. The problem is because most predators are going to consume this right up because frogs lay their eggs and leave. So bam, that's a beautiful long, that's a lot of eggs right there. Now we're going to go over here and we're going to pull out the other side. It is an egg theme day. I was actually talking to our teacher right before this, and she goes, I hope it's a female so you can talk about eggs. That's perfect. So, man, look at that. That is a lot of eggs. But unfortunately, like I said, a very little percentage of this will actually make it to tadpole stage because they will be consumed by other predators. Now, look how much easier that is to fill and look into the organ systems. Now, we're going to get rid of one more tubes. We're going to get rid of the female reproductive system right here. These are almost like our fallopian tubes, but they're tubes for the eggs. So it's a female part that helps with the reproduction system. Now we're just going to tear these out right off the bat. Some people wait till later, but it just makes it easier if I get rid of them right now. Look at the different integrations. Almost looks like the striated muscles down there as it flips through the tubing systems, but it's beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. Oh man, the sounds are just amazing. Miss Bacon might not be eating after this. Look at that. Almost kind of feels like the brain if you've ever opened a pig brain up. Kind of has the same texture. Okay, now the first thing that we're going to pull out past those reproductive systems is we're going to get in here and you're going to notice right off the bat you got these beautiful 3 lobes of the liver. They're very large because they have a lot of work to do. They help they help clean our systems, and then they're going to move that bile into the pancreas right here. This pancreas right here is a little bitty sac. It's actually hollow. It's actually very empty right now, obviously, because it's been in some chemicals. But that's the pancreas. It's beautiful. Now, as we go further down, you're going to see this big old stomach right here. This is a very hearty stomach. And the reason for it is because since the frog consumes everything whole, it's got to be able to expand. And when we open it up in a minute, you're going to see some lines in the actual stomach that allows for it to little bitty flap. So when the frog has to expand its stomach, say it's a huge horsefly, it needs the room in there so it pushes it out. So those folds actually help allow the stomach to expand. And then you're going to go down in here. Then you have the attachment of the small intestine. That goes all the way through here. All that is the beautiful, beautiful small intestine. And then we move into the large intestine. Now, if you notice, the large intestine's actually, and lengthwise, is very small compared to the small intestine. One of my first questions I always get, well, that doesn't make any sense. Then why do they call that the large intestine and this is the small intestine? That's because of diameter. The large intestine is much larger in diameter than the small intestine, even though the small intestine has a lot longer length. So what we're going to do before we go any upper into the heart or the lungs or anything like that, I'm going to go ahead and remove this stomach intestines. It's one of my favorite things to do. Now, sometimes you'll see claws in here. Sometimes you'll see worms. Sometimes you'll see parts of a small lizard, a fly, and then sometimes you just have some moss or anything like that. So we're going to move it out. I'm going to pull this all the way down. I'm going to remove some of this amazing tissue that helps connect the organ systems all the way down from the stomach to the small intestines to the large intestines to the coccus. So there's that. I'm going to cut this tissue up a little bit just to show you the kind of the length of it. Look at that. Just stretches all the way out. Just think, that was actually in the frog as its intestinal. And if you look and lengthwise, it's already longer than the actual frog itself. It's pretty cool. So here we go. Let's cut into the stomach. Now hopefully we get something good in here. Hopefully I don't cut my finger. All right. Guess in the comments and see if you know what's in there before I do it. Let's find out. 30 seconds behind me. Oh, yes. Okay, so he, or she, I apologize, has got quite a bit in her stomach. So she had a final meal before she was preserved. And saying that, looks like I have some beetle parts in there. You can see the actual exterior shell of a beetle on my finger right there. I know it's probably pretty hard for you to see on that. Let's see. It looks like there might be a worm. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You can see the digits of a beetle. It looks like he had a few in there. Now maybe a little bit of sticks and stuff like that that came with it. But that is awesome. Full of stomach contents right there. Now, I'm going to leave that to the side. We're going to go on to the next thing. Now, since these liver lobes are very large, they kind of make it hard to see the heart and a few other organs that are right here through the tissue. So what I'm going to do, and I'm really bad about this, so I only got one out full last year, one time. So let's see if I can beat that this time. Here we go. Oh, don't cut the heart. Oh, Kaylee Rye loved to do it in class when she had to. So don't let her ooze. Okay, so here's the beautiful lobes. 3. Now, typically, her lobes are actually a little bit small, especially for proportionate. Sometimes, especially with males, they're going to be very large and hold up the entire top of the chest cavity. That almost messed me up. The chest cavity. So hers are a little bit smaller, but it's still very distinguishable and beautiful. Very nice. Okay, so up here, we're going to go to the very, very top. Now, hopefully we can see really good right there. I'm going to come up a little bit. You're going to see the heart right there. That's beautiful. You're going to see some major arteries and small veins that attach to it through here. Now, the frog's heart is a 3-chamber heart, so you're going to see all of it right there. Yeah, it's right here. That's that right there. All the way through there. Right below that are 2 lungs. Now, if you notice, especially compared to us, their lungs are very small. But again, like I said earlier, about 70% of the gases exchange that comes through a frog actually comes through the skin. So their lungs are going to be quite small because they don't use them as much. But it's beautiful. Look at that. I'm going to pull this heart out. I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to go up here and go all the way around it so maybe that I can get some of the ventral veins and the arteries that go along. Go ahead and cut below the lung, right above the lungs. There we go. Got some more of the sac that came with it. So there's the heart. And on the other side, you have your chambers, your 3, the veins that go out. I know it's probably hard to see through the camera, much easier if you were in person. The 2 sacs below it are the lungs. They're very textured, finding grady feeling like sand. And it goes through right there. Okay, put that on the side. Now, the one thing that I did not see very well was the the pancreas, which was up top. The gallbladder came out beautifully with the liver, but the pancreas up top was a little, I don't know if it was fully formed. It's most likely this tissue in here, a little bit of aspects of it. It's going to be up here in the tissue, not very well noticeable though, but as we go through here, you can notice the frog is completely pulled out. Now, we have the beautiful liver up here. Now, typically, like I said earlier, if they were dyed really well, you would see these very nicely. Right here, you have the kidneys on each side of the vertebral column. You have a beautiful kidney right here. And if they would have dyed them, they would have been much blacker, so they've been really easy to see. But these are a little bit more tan and brown, but you can see the tissue that's around them and moving through. Okay, it's beautiful. Now, typically in class, we have about 45 minutes to go through all this, so we have a lot more time. So unfortunately, I know I moved through it quickly, but I just wanted to show you guys some stuff, especially since we've had to miss a couple months of actually being in class. This actually gets to see you of some of the anatomy that goes on with the frog. Now, first, I hope you've loved the frog today. Now, I'm going to eat lunch right after this because, you know, it's an amazing time to do that. Like I said, as Miss Bacon over there is sitting like, no. She's probably happy that she stole an egg earlier from the home ec teacher. Yeah, stole on camera. So, again, I will be back next week at 11 Thursday on Tuesday for the next couple weeks. I hope you've enjoyed our dissection of a frog. I know it was quick, but I hope you've learned a little bit today. Have a great day.